Every day, whatever he gain, he take his own share and then keep the share for the orphan safely somewhere, while the same machine or motorcycle is still there. So this one is allowed. But you know, all these things have to do with amana, isn't it? It has to do with amana, it has to do with trust, it has to do with someone who is honest in his own dealings. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, فَإِذَا دَفَعْتُمْ إِلَيْهِمْ أَمْوَالَهُمْ فَأَشْهِدُوا عَلَيْهِمْ فَإِذَا دَفَعْتُمْ إِلَيْهِمْ أَمْوَالَهُمْ. Anytime you are handing over to them, anytime you are handing over to them أَمْوَالَهُمْ, their wealth, their resources, their funds, at what time will you hand it over to them? After they have reached that particular age, you have seen that they are now intelligent enough to manage their funds and resources, and they are not going to be extravagant and then spend it in a wasted way, waste it. You have seen that, you have realized that. Allah said, go and give them their wealth. So it means if you refuse to hand over the wealth, you have committed sin, because it's an instruction from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And remember, we will come across this particular verse. Allah ta'ala said, الَّذِينَ يَأْكُلُونَ أَمْوَالَ الْيَتَامَى ظُلْمًا إِنَّمَا يَأْكُلُونَ فِي بُطُونِهِمْ نَارًا وَسَيَصْلَوْنَ سَعِيرًا. Whoever is consuming the wealth of an orphan, he is consuming nothing other than fire. Meaning, he is just punishing himself. And certainly after death, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will cause him to be admitted into a hellfire that is burning. May Allah protect us. So the wealth of orphans, it's not an easy wealth that will just go and do whatever you want to do with. Or you consume it anyhow, or you even waste it or destroy it. But as I said earlier, you can manage it in a particular business. By the time you are handing over their resources to them, فَأَشْهِدُوا عَلَيْهِمْ. If you are handing over the wealth, then establish a witness on them for that. Let there be a witness. Some scholars, this shahada is done at the time the money is given to you or the resources is given to you. While others say it is done at the time you are handing over, so that people should know you are now free. Or it can be done 2 ways. There is nothing bad. By the time so often died, and now his money is so amount, his resources is this and that. Now this thing is being handed over to you. Try to have a kind of witness. Now you can have documentation, isn't it? Let it be properly documented. Then anytime you are handing over, this is where it is more compulsory or binding, or it's more demanding. Anytime you are handing over, let there be a witness that you have handed over. Because there is possibility that you might die, and your children may also grow and become also ready to take from their own father's wealth. And if you have not clearly stated that you have paid the other offer, then there might be confusion or problem while sharing your own inheritance after you might have died. So witnessing is very, very important at this particular level. By the time you hand over the wealth of the orphan, let there be a witness, let there be documentation, let there be evidence that you have actually done that. And usually in normal settings where Islam is in control of affairs of people, there usually used to be a position of the state on this matter. The state come in. So that all these things that have to do with supervising people that need to be supervised, the state will always have an interest in. State will always have an interest. And that is why even if you see, for example, these kind of children that are moving around without their parents taking care of them, the state is also responsible. The state is also responsible because they are under that particular environment that is under the leadership of somebody. And if you read, for example, in the book of FUT of jurisprudence, the rulings of laqi, a child that is, abandoned child that is picked. And you know, some people, some ladies, maybe they might have done the child outside marriage wedlock, they'll go and throw him somewhere. Scholars of Islam say it is compulsory, it is binding, compulsory for that particular child to be picked, sustained, maintained, and taken care of. It's compulsory on the ummah. If the ummah did not pick that particular child and allow the child to die, Allah will hold the entire community responsible. So you see how the value of life as far as Islam is concerned. The fact that the child was born outside marriage wedlock does not mean anything because it's not his fault. The fault falls on that particular criminal that went and committed that zina, and that went and committed that particular act, or that particular lady that allowed herself to go and be misused so that this particular child will now come into the world. But taking care of the child is compulsory. You don't say it's a bastard child, so if you take it, it's going to be a problem. No, it's compulsory. You remember we talked about the different ways that people can be linked together, they become related, and this is one of it. You can take someone, sort of make him part of your own family. The only thing is that he will not inherit you, and you will also not inherit him. But all issues that have to do with taking care of him, you that take that particular responsibility to become binding on you. Then if you have become poor, you don't have the resources, scholar says, then it is transferred to the state government to take care of that. I pray Allah assist us. So we are saying this for us to understand that taking care of someone who needs care, supervising someone who needs to be supervised, is mandatory. The Ummah should not just hold his hand. People are doing whatever they want to do. It is mandatory for the Ummah to take charge. There are certain compulsory things in Sharia, some that are called fardu ayn, some that are fardu kifaya. Some things are compulsory on individuals' responsibility. But certain things are communal responsibility, fardu kifaya. That is the responsibility of the community. If the community is not engaged in that particular compulsory act, every member of that committee is counted as a sinner, someone who's committed sin. And as scholars said, for example, seeking for knowledge. Seeking for knowledge. Seeking for knowledge, there is the one that is fardu ayn, compulsory on every person. And then there is the one that is fardu kifaya. It's a communal responsibility. The one that is fardu ayn, compulsory on every individual, is to know how to serve Allah Ta'ala. You cannot be observing salat, you don't know what you are doing. You are just observing salat because you wake up and you grew up in a family that you have seen your parents observing salat and you just grew up observing. No, that's not correct. Or you just see the community observing, so you continue to observe salat. Or you are fasting because you grew up in a community where the community are normally fasting and you just continue to fast. No, it is fardu ayn, it is compulsory on you to know the rules that are related to observing salat, the rules that are related to observing fasting. This kind of knowledge is compulsory. And scholars said if you have not acquired this knowledge, you now engage yourself in other knowledge, then you might even commit sin. Because, or you will have gone somewhere to give preference to something that is less preferred. For example, you go into knowledge about politics, about how to run governments, how to run the economy of society, and you delve into that area, and even though you are found wanting in knowing how to observe your salat, you don't know the rules of your salat, but politically you know everything about Islamic politics, then this one you have misfired. You have not taken the right direction. You are supposed to know this because this is fardu ayn. Know your salat. And this knowledge of the deen, it doesn't mean you must be able to speak fluent Arabic, read Arabic, this and that. The basic thing is that you must know what you are doing that agrees with the teaching of the deen. And take it from someone who also knows it, that is teaching you. For example, salat. By the time you stand up and salah, you say, Allahu Akbar. This Allahu Akbar, why are you saying that Allahu Akbar? And then you recite Fatiha, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, like that. You finish, you recite another surah. Qul huwallahu ahad to the end. You now say Allahu Akbar. You bow down to ruku. What is the meaning of that Allahu Akbar you say when you are standing? Is there any difference between that Allahu Akbar and the Allahu Akbar for you bowing? And then the Fatiha you recited, does it have the same ruling as the surah you recited? And then as you bow down you say Subhana Rabbiyal Azim, does it have a special, the same ruling as when you recited Surah Al-Fatiha? All the procedures, know what all these things stands for. For example, the first Allahu Akbar is Takbiratul Ihram. While the Allahu Akbar you do what you are going for, you are bowing, it is sunnah. If you abandon Allahu Akbar in the beginning, you don't have salat. Takbiratul Ihram. You don't have salat. So the position of this Allahu Akbar is different from that Allahu Akbar. And when you recite Surah Al-Fatiha, after Fatiha you write a surah, you recite a surah. The Surah Al-Fatiha occupied a different position, and the surah also occupied a different position. The surah have its rulings, the Fatiha have its own rulings. If you have forgotten the Fatiha, there is something to be done. If you have forgotten the surah, there is something to be done. If it is Fatiha, you must have to bring it. If it is surah, you might go ahead. When you go for ruku, what is the position of that ruku? Is it compulsory? How about if you forgot, instead of going to ruku, you just go for sujood? Will your salat be okay? If it is not okay, what will you do? All these things, you just need to know. You may not need to know the Arabic meanings. This is that, but know what you are doing. Know the rules. And by the time you know all these things, it minimizes a lot of arguments even among people. Because you will see there are reasons for so many things, and there are certain things that are not compulsory. There are certain things that are necessary. There are certain things that are this and that. For example, you see people quarreling and fighting because of Jasatul Istirah. It's because probably they themselves did not understand the real meaning of Jasatul Istirah. Or what scholars say about Jasatul Istirah. Is it the same thing as that jalsa that is at the end of Fatiha, at the end of Salat, that you are going to observe your own Salam? Because the middle sitting, by the time you observe 4 rak'at, after 2 rak'at you sit, isn't it? And then you stand up, you observe the middle rak'at, you sit in the last sitting. That last sitting have different rulings from this first sitting. The rulings are different. The last sitting close to Salam is compulsory. Do you get that? But this particular sitting is not so. You can forget it and do sujood. Like, was it yesterday or the day before yesterday? I forgot when I was leading the salat here. Instead of sitting after the 2 rakats, I forgot and stood up. Isn't it? After I stood up, some people were saying Subhanallah, Subhanallah, Subhanallah. After a while, I came back and sat down, complete the salat and do sujood ba'da salat. That may not be the best thing. Do you get that? Yes, as scholars mention. But it may be the preferred thing within that situation. I saw that that may be preferred. To do that and do sujood ba'da salah. Because if I refuse to come back and then I continue like that, because I've seen people have been saying it might mean a different thing. Do you get that? And it might take longer explanations. But scholars says, if you have gone into farilla, what is compulsory? Do you get that? You have started compulsory, some act, you need not to come back to something that is lesser in degree to that particular thing that is compulsory. So ordinarily, since I have already forgotten, I have already stood up, probably started recitation, then with all this, I will still continue. Because I have started something that is higher in degree and level. Do you get that? I will continue. But it will be in my mind that I have forgotten sitting down. So by the time I finish the salat, I will do sujood qabla salat. Because I have to do something, not sujood ba'da salat. But that time I now come back, sat down, complete. I now do sujood ba'da salat because I have added something. Do you get that? So, but whichever way you do the two, it still suffices. It's okay. That does not make the salat to be bad or to be this. Do you get that? So the same thing, when you forget ruku, you go to sujood. What happened if you forget the rak'ah? What happened if you forget the sujood? All these things. This one, we need to know all these particular things. That is our ibadah. It is fardu ayn to know this. Scholar says, these are the kind of knowledge that you must have to have this knowledge before you become an imam. Know the rulings of the salat. The same thing for your fasting. Know the rulings of the fasting. Then by the time you know all this fardu ayn knowledge, you can then go to political discussion. Whether Islamically this government should be this or it should be that. Whether this person should be this or should be that. That is an advanced argument that involves advanced knowledge. That required more of experience, exposure, so many other things. Unfortunately, many of us are more interested in that knowledge even at the expense of this particular knowledge. That is not the best as far as Islam is concerned. So what we are saying here is that you need to know what you are doing as far as Sharia is concerned. Some of those things that are fardu kifaya, that is communal responsibilities, it is the responsibility of the leadership. If the leadership is found wanting, then that particular community can be held responsible. If the community did not talk to the leadership or draw the attention to the leadership towards that particular issue. For example of fardu kifaya, like burying the corpse. A Muslim died, and nobody is there to perform the burial rites for him. To observe salat, to go and bury him. Nobody did that. And the corpse began to decompose, became a waste. The whole community of Muslims are sinners. They are insane. But if some few people take that particular responsibility, they did all the necessary things, then everybody now is free. Scholars say the same thing to fields of learning. We have different professions, especially now in our contemporary world. We have different areas, different fields of learning. If there is any field, according to our scholars, if there is any field that is demanding and needed in a community, it's a requirement for the community to survive, and no Muslim is an expert in that particular field, the whole community are at sea. You must sponsor someone to go and study that field. You must sponsor someone. If you sponsor someone to go and study that, then you are not free. So it shows the importance of what? Government coming in to provide scholarship, to provide a sort of opportunities for people to go and learn, get knowledge, to become experts in certain fields that is required for the sustenance of that particular community. If you study a lot of things about Islamic environment, community and society, you appreciate that so many things today the Ummah have left. The things that Ummah have left have so many that has created all this for us to be in this program. May Allah protect us. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, فَإِذَا دَفَعْتُمْ إِلَيْهِمْ أَمْوَالَهُمْ فَأَشْهِدُوا عَلَيْهِمْ. Try to establish witness. Let it be documented. Let there be witness that you have handed over this money or these resources to the orphan. Allah is enough as one who takes notes and keep every record and everything intact. Whatever is being done by you, whether it's funny or it's correct, whether the record is kept or it's not kept, whatever happens, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take cognizance of that, and Allah is aware of whatever is there. And you will certainly reward people based on their actions. If they are falling in their dealings, they try to play with the intelligence of the orphan, and at the end cheat him or cheat her. Allah is aware. And if they are going to do something beneficial for the orphan, Allah is aware. And the Prophet actually said in one hadith that it is good and a sort of use the wealth of an orphan in viable business so that zakat will not consume that particular wealth. So that zakat will not consume that particular wealth. Scholars say because if an orphan has the money and the money has reached the level of zakat, together the zakat must have to be given, even though it's an infant. He has money that his parents have left, maybe like 20 million for him out there, and then he is here. At the end of the year, you have to calculate the amount of zakat and then give back from that money. And that's why Rasul said, instead of you leaving the money to lie there, try to make it in a way that it can also generate something. And then from there, you give out the zakat. We also see the importance of zakat here. That if the wealth of an infant, zakat is due for that particular money, then how much more of the wealth of someone who is healthy, who is strong, who is having all the kind of opportunities for him to earn more of his own resources. I pray Allah assist us. Allah Ta'ala said, لِلْرِجَالِ نَصِيبٌ
لِلْرِجَالِ نَصِيبٌ مِّمَّا تَرَكَ الْوَالِدَانِ وَالْأَقْرَبُونَ وَلِلنِّسَاءِ نَصِيبٌ مِّمَّا تَرَكَ الْوَالِدَانِ وَالْأَقْرَبُونَ مِمَّا قَلَّ مِنْهُ أَوْ كَثُرَ نَصِيبًا مَّفْرُوضًا.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in this particular verse, the reason why this verse was revealed. In the glorious Quran, there are certain rules that are related to knowing the reasons why verses were revealed. Asbabun nuzul or munasabatul nuzul. Certain things that are related to the revelation of a particular verse, or certain event or issue that happened that led to the revelation of a particular verse. To be able to translate or explain Quran very well, scholars said you need to know all these things. Why and the reasons for revealing certain verses. By the time you know the reasons and certain things that happened before a particular verse was revealed, you will also understand how to apply that particular verse correctly. But if you don't know all these things, then the tendency for you to be misinterpreting what Allah Ta'ala actually meant by some verses is very, it's almost certain, because you'll be taking the verses out of context. And anything you take out of context, you can you can misrepresent it, misinterpret it, and commit a lot of atrocities even with that. That is what some people used to do to show that Islam, for example, approve killings, approve destructions, approve all these things, because they take certain verses out of context, not looking at the scenario, the situation, and the reasons behind the revelation of some verses. There are certain things that lead to certain things. And I used to cite this example, even in our contemporary world today, there are different institutions that are all working together for the development of a nation, different institutions. And this different institution might have different rulings, different kind of rules, different kind of this, because their activities differ and varies. For example, the security, you take the army, for example, their rule of engagement, and all the rules that are related to war and other things, if you begin to take that and apply it to the civilian way of life, is it going to be possible? It will not be. The scenario, the circumstance that usually the army used to find themselves in, or the security used to find themselves in, used to be different from the kind of situation the civilians usually find themselves in. And a war situation is different from a peaceful situation. A situation where you have an agreement with people is different from a situation where you are quarreling or fighting or trying to undo one another. And the glorious Quran is a guide to guide humanity throughout the ages, and to guide human beings in any situation, any circumstance, any kind of environment such particular human being finds himself. So you find the rulings based on different situations, different circumstances, and whatever. So that is why you need to now know what are the reasons behind a particular verse being revealed. When Allah said this, why did Allah say this? When did Allah say this? What happened when Allah Ta'ala said this? And how did Rasul respond to this? How did the companion respond to this? How was this implemented at the time of Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? So this particular verse, لِلْرِجَالِ نَصِيبٌ مِمَّا تَرَكَ الْوَالِدَانِ وَالْأَقْرَبُونَ وَلِلنِّسَاءِ نَصِيبٌ مِمَّا تَرَكَ الْوَالِدَانِ وَالْأَقْرَبُونَ مِمَّا قَلَّ مِنْهُ أَوْ كَثُرَ نَصِيبًا مَفْرُوضًا. There was a woman came to Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, a widow. She came to Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, فَقَالَتْ يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ. She now said, oh, the Messenger of Allah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, لِي إِبْنَتَانِ قَدْ مَاتَ أَبُوهُمَا. Oh, the Messenger of Allah, I have young girls, my daughters too. I have two daughters. Their father have died, he's no more alive. وَلَيْسَ لَهُمَا شَيْءٌ. And they don't have anything for me to sustain them. Meaning my husband, who is the father of these girls, is no more alive. The girls are now with me, and they don't have anything in terms of what to sustain them. وَهَذَا أَمُّهُمَا الْمَالَ كُلَّهُ. And the brother to the father have taken all the money, all the resources that belong to his own brother. So what will I do? You understand the situation? A widow now complaining that this is what happened. And usually, the glorious Quran is so much organized and a sort of arranged in a manner that addresses situations. And that is why Allah creates scenario to happen before a verse will be revealed to justify that particular kind of verse and how to apply that particular verse. So when this thing happened, Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam waited for Allah to reveal a verse. لا ينطق عن الهوى إن هو إلا وحي يوحى. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam don't talk out of his own desire. Anything that comes, just talk out of his will. It is what Allah Ta'ala revealed to him, or what Allah Ta'ala guides him to do, that he usually do. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So when she complained to Rasul like that, then Allah Ta'ala revealed this verse. لِلْرِجَالِ نَصِيبٌ مِمَّا تَرَكَ الْوَالِدَانِ وَالْأَقْرَبُونَ وَلِلنِّسَاءِ نَصِيبٌ مِمَّا تَرَكَ الْوَالِدَانِ وَالْأَقْرَبُونَ مِمَّا قَلَّ مِنْهُ أَوْ كَثُرَ نَصِيبًا مَفْرُوضًا. Allah revealed the verse. لِلْرِجَالِ, to every man, نَصِيبٌ, the men have a share. مِمَّا تَرَكَ الْوَالِدَانِ وَالْأَقْرَبُونَ, they have a share to benefit from what their parents left behind, or from what their relations left behind. So men or male gender have a right to inherit. Allah established that right. Then Allah Ta'ala said, وَلِلنِّسَاءِ نَصِيبٌ مِمَّا تَرَكَ الْوَالِدَانِ وَالْأَقْرَبُونَ مِمَّا قَلَّ مِنْهُ أَوْ كَثُرَ. Allah said also to women, just as Allah said to them, also to women, بِهَبْ نَصِيبٌ بِهَبْ إِشِيَا مِمَّا تَرَكَ الْوَالِدَانِ, from what their parents left, وَالْأَقْرَبُونَ, or their close relations left, مِمَّا قَلَّ مِنْهُ أَوْ كَثُرَ, however little it is and however much it is. So equality. Allah didn't mention that men will inherit, not women, or women will inherit, not men. But Allah made like a general statement to everyone. للرجال نصيب مما ترك الوالدان والأقربون وللنساء نصيب مما ترك الوالدان والأقربون. The same way men are to inherit, the same way female are to inherit. The same way men are to inherit from their parents, the same way women are to inherit from their parents. The same way men should inherit from their relations, the same way women will also inherit from their relation, irrespective of the amount. Allah Ta'ala said, Nasiban Mafruha. It is a share that Allah Ta'ala established and decreed by its own proportion. So Allah now shared the inheritance himself, Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. And the beginning of the sharing of inheritance starts. Allah shared the inheritance. But he has made a preliminary, isn't it? The preliminary is that no man should be denied and no woman should be denied. But then, is it everybody that should inherit from every other person that died? Is it every woman should inherit from every other person that died? Scholars now went into study, critically studied the hadith of Rasulullah and studied also the provisions of the glorious Quran, and then came out and said there are only 10 categories, 10 different male 10 that inherit, and 7 women that inherit. So this is the first lesson, 10. If a man falls within these 10 people, then he can inherit. If a woman falls within the 7 people, then she can inherit. Who are these 10? Who are these 7? Now, first of all, what we should understand about inheritance, we need to also look at the issue of taking responsibility. Taking responsibility. Normal Islamic settings, there are responsibilities, there are duties, there are rights, and all this have been clearly spelled out. We mentioned earlier that الرجال قوامون على النساء, isn't it? Men have given the charge to take care of the family. So the feeding and the taking care is squarely on the father or on the male person. So the husband should feed the wife. Do you get that? And if there is any reason for death, the relation to the father will take the responsibility. Do you get that? So from the parent side, the father, the relations to the father, they have great responsibility of sponsoring. Do you get that? While the mother is to take custody, to take care, to maintain in terms of showing care or whatever. She is not to spend. It's the other one that should spend. Whatever comes for the lady or the woman or the wife is her own. Whatever comes for the husband or for the father is his own and for his wife. And also for the children. You get that? So in that respect, the Shia sometimes favors some men against some women. We'll come to that, inshallah, if you go to read clearly. Some people will say, men have double share of women. I said it's not true. It's not in all circumstances. If you make that, you are making like a general statement that at any time, man have double of what a woman should have. I said it's not true. There are cases where some women have greater share than men, and we'll come to see it. There are cases where ladies have greater share than some men. We'll come to that. There are cases where they carry half of what the deceased left of their own father. If you come to daughters, for example. So you don't make general statement and say, especially those people that are, is it women right or what do you call it? They always fight for women, something. Women are treated in this and this. They don't know the story, no? Feminists. We don't know it in Islam. Because in Islam there is no competition between the two genders. It's only cooperation. You only cooperate, you complement one another, and the society move. No competition. May Allah assist us. So, among the men that will inherit, there are certain things that will always be considered as we are sharing. What responsibility falls on this particular person at this particular moment? And what are those things that are expected from him? Even if those responsibilities are not there now, but later it might come. And this particular lady, a woman that is given social share, what kind of responsibility is on her? Even if the responsibility is not immediate, but what may come later. Then again, in sharing inheritance, we look at the issue of the person that also inherited, the kind of activity he do engage himself in the community for the development of the community. Do you get that? Usually, the men are more active. Do you get that? Even though it's not an all situation or circumstance, in terms of community-related activities that is for the development of the economy of the city or the town, especially those days. That may not be the case now. But that is another aspect that might be looked at when you are seeing the kind of portion that is apportioned to this or that. Then in sharing inheritance also, there are three kind of conditions that may warrant a link that will allow someone to inherit from another person. Three. One is an-nikah. There should be a relationship that is related to marriage. So if there is no marital relationship, do you get that? Then there may be a problem unless if one of these two is established. The other one is an-nasab. There is blood relationship. Blood relationship or marital relationship, or the last one is al-wala. Al-wala, now you may not be able to find it practically. That is a situation where someone freed a slave. Freeing a slave does not mean you don't have certain responsibility. Because if the slave, usually the slaves then may not have any other relations around. Nobody. So you now stand as someone that will be always be referred to as what do you call it? Someone who stands for them. Like their wali, isn't it? Whenever like their guardian, whenever there is problem, it will be referred to you. So these are the three situations that will warrant inheritance. There should be marital relationship. So if you are staying with a lady, you wanted to marry her, and the marriage has not been conducted, then automatically inheritance cannot come. Because an-nikah have not been concluded. Do get that? And then if there is divorce nullified a marriage, isn't it? But certain divorce does not completely nullify marriage. Like talaq, that is raj'i. You divorce someone, a wife, one divorce, and she is still in her iddah period, and death occurred. By the fact that death occurred after that divorce, that does not mean there will not be inheritance between that wife that was divorced and the husband that divorced her. Because up to now, the rope that linked them together have not cut away completely. Do you get that? So this now inheritance, so you might see someone can divorce his wife today, after like 1 month he died, and then he will come back and say, let the inheritance be shared, she also have a share, and she have a share. Do you get that? Then the issue of nasab, that is blood relationship. That is where parents come in, children come in, sisters come in, brothers come in, aunties, cousins, relations. This is in the side of nasab. Do you get that? These three must be established. Then another thing, before the inheritance can be shared again, there must be three things that the person to inherit is not affected by any of these three things. One, riqun. Second, qatlun. And then the third one, ikhtilafuddin. Three conditions. The one that will inherit now, there should not be any reason or anything that have shown that he is the cause or a reason for the death of the person. So if a child should kill his father, he cannot inherit from him. Do you get that? Or if a brother should kill a brother, he cannot inherit from him. So if you are a reason for the death of the person, even though you are linked together, there will not be inheritance. You get that? Then the issue of riq, which is not there now, the issue of being a slave. If one is enslaved somewhere, do you get that? He cannot inherit because his property will automatically not be his own. Do you get that? Then another thing is ikhtilafud-din, if they don't share the same religion. If they don't share the same religion also, the share of inheritance will not also be there for them. The father have a different religion and the son have a different religion. Or the daughter have a different religion, the parent have a different religion. Or the husband have a different religion, the wife have a different. So ikhtilafud-din, this one also will not warrant inheritance. So these are the three things that must be absent also. Do you get that? Then when we come after all this is satisfied now, then you now count the number of people that will inherit from the next side. Because of time, I'll just list them. Tomorrow I will ask maybe a question. There is an ibn, a son, a biological son. A biological son, there is no circumstance that will deny him inheritance. If these three things have not happened. You remember the three things, what are those things? Death is not the cause of the death of the father. And also, they share the same religion. Do you get the point? And there's no issue of one being enslaved. So there is no situation that a son cannot inherit. So al-ibn. Al-ibn wabunuhu wa insafara. A son will inherit, and a son of a son. That's a grandson. A grandchild inherits, even if it's a great-great-grandchild. Yes, he inherits. But this one, certain situation and circumstance can deny him inheritance. That's will come to areas where you have hajbun nuqsan, the kind of barrier that will make the person to have a little share that will be reduced. And then the kind of hajj also, a barrier that will make him completely not to inherit. So if there is a son, a grandson cannot inherit. A son have covered a grandson. Do you get the point? So the same thing, the grandson have covered the great-grandchild. So it goes like that. So we have now mentioned a child, biological one, and what? And a grandchild. Then the next number 3 that can inherit is al-abdu, a father. There is no situation or circumstance that a father cannot inherit from his own son or child. Do you get that? Unless if one of these three things also happen, which we have mentioned. Then, wal-jadd, and then the grandfather, the father of the father. The same thing, wa-in ala. Even the how do you call that one? Great-great-grandfather. Also, it goes like that. And the kind of barrier is like this. If this one is not there, this one comes. If this one is not there, the other one descends. If this one is not, the other one descends. He takes the position of the father. And you can understand this. That's why I'm saying, linking this with also responsibility of taking the custody of a child. Do you get that? If the father is not there, grandfather comes down. Do you get that? If the son is not there, grandson automatically comes up. So, wal-ab, wal-jad, then wal-akh, a brother. A brother also inherits. There is akhul shaqiq, and then akhul al-ab, then an akhul al-um. A brother that they share the same father and mother, he inherits. A brother that share the same father only, he also inherits. A brother that share the same mother, he also inherits. But there are situations and circumstances that brothers don't inherit at all. Do you get that? We'll also come to that particular situation. But we have mentioned this is the 5th, isn't it? Even though that brother, you can now make it a subsidiary. Brother the same father and mother, brother the same father, brother the same mother. Because if you go inside in sharing, there is differences also of what the other, each person can take as a ratio. Then Ibn al-Akh, a son to a brother. What do you call this one? Is it a nephew? Nephew. A son to a brother also inherits. In certain situations or circumstances. We are not saying in all situations, do you get that? But in certain situations or circumstances, a nephew also inherits. Then, al-am, a brother to a father. Is that uncle? A brother to a father, he also inherits. A situation warrants him inheriting. Then there is Ibn al-Am. That is a son to your father's brother, or a son to father's brother. What do you call this one? A cousin. He also inherits. You know these terms. He also inherits. How many have we counted now? 8. Then the 9th one, Az-Zawj, husband. Husband also inherits. And husband is part of those also there is no situation or circumstance that they can be denied inheritance. Then, wal-mu'tiku, the one that a sort of freed a slave. Do you get that one? The one that freed a slave. So because we said he still have that issue of guardianship, isn't it? So he also inherits. And these are the only 10 people. So any person that did not fall here as a man will not inherit. You didn't hear the son of a sister. Did you hear that? So he's been eliminated. Do you get that? So any other person you hear that he did not fall among these is eliminated. Some can fall among the Zawul Arham. Zawul Arham. We also call what Allah Ta'ala said about Zawul Arham. They are relations that are related to an entire of kinship that is expected for you to also extend that relationship to them, even though there may not be inheritance between you and them. Then the female side, do we have time for the female? We don't have time. So we have 7. I will just list them so that tomorrow we may not need to repeat this one. The 7 ladies or female that can inherit, there is albint, a daughter. A daughter. So there is no situation or circumstance that a daughter cannot inherit. Do you get that? So you see, this woman now that brought that case to the Prophet ﷺ, her children, there is no situation or circumstance that would deny them inheriting from their father. Do you get the answer? Then, Bintul Ibn, a daughter, a granddaughter through a son. You have a son who gives birth to a female child. Do you get that? She can also inherit, or you can inherit. There can be inheritance between them. Then the next is Al-Um, a mother. A mother also is someone that there is no situation or circumstance that she can be denied inheritance. Do you get that? A mother. So that mother now that brought the case to Rasul, what can you say now? She has a share. But that relation to the father, if things go far, he may not even have a share. That he's even claiming that he has a share. The only thing is this circumstance he will have a share. We'll explain that one because there are 2 ladies. Then there is Zawja, a wife. A wife. That is woman number 4, isn't it? A wife also have a share of inheritance. And wives are among those that there is no circumstance that they can be denied inheritance. No circumstance will warrant a woman not inheriting from her own husband. Except those other things we have mentioned exceptions. So you see, in Islam, a relation to the father or a brother to the father can never come and carry the load of her husband and carry it and go. No. You don't have right to do that. Then the next is Jaddatun, a grandmother. A grandmother also can inherit. Then the next is Al-Ukhut, Ukhut Shaqiqa, Ukhut Al-Ab, a sister, the one we mentioned just like a brother. A sister also inherits. Do you get that? A sister that is related to the deceased. Then the last one is Al-Mu'taqiqa, the one also Mutaqa, the one that also what? Release, freed a slave. So if a woman also freed a slave, she can also inherit from that and can inherit. How many women are we counting? 7. So these are the only categories of people that can get a share of inheritance. I pray Allah Ta'ala assist us. So this is the beginning of how the sharing of inheritance goes. Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala specified the share for every person, and as we go further, we will see that particular kind of share. Are you trying to say something? You are missed.
Granddaughter, mother, grandmother,
sister, a sister also inherit. So inshallah we have come to the end of this. We pray Allah Ta'ala guide us. We have questions? This person said, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Who is a miskin in Islam? a miskin. Even though I didn't mention miskin here, I mentioned fakir. Who is miskin? You know, these are terms in Islam, a miskin and fakir. Who is worse in terms of his situation as far as economy is concerned? Between a miskin and fakir. Because Allah talked about masakin and He talked about fuqara. Lil fuqara, Allah mentioned when He was talking about muhajir, isn't it? And the same thing masakin, Allah mentioned that. So, who among these two is the poorest? Is it miskin that is the poorest? Or is fakir that is the poorest? Miskin, who? Some say miskin. Who fakir? Fakir. So, by our scholars' explanation, fakir is the poorest. The person that cannot earn a daily living is a fakir, who is battling to get his own earnings per day. A miskin is someone whose earning is not enough to sustain him. And you understand that in Surah Al-Kahfi, Allah was discussing about masakin. When He was talking about the masakin fil bahri ya'muruna fil bahr an a'ibaha wa kana ra'ahum malakun ya'khudhu kulla safinatin ghasba. How was the beginning of the verse? يتيمين واليتيمين في المدينة وأما السفينة فكانت لمساكين يعملون في البحر. So he said this particular ship, you know that particular story of Hither, when he break and create a hole in a very big ship that was sailing. So Musa asked him, why are you trying to destroy this ship without anything happening, this kind of or whatever? So after the whole scenario he was explaining, he now told Musa the explanation. He said, this ship you have seen is for masakin. Masakin ya'maluna fil bahr. It is masakin that own the ship that is carrying on businesses for them over through the sea. So it means a miskin have a capital. Do you get that? A miskin have a ship. A miskin have something doing. So a miskin is not something that is like him completely. A miskin is someone that is having, but is not enough to sustain him. And this masakin, I don't want to generalize, but like all the civil servants of Nigeria, they are masakin. Like all the civil, well, let me not generalize. But I know within our setting, in the university setting, I know from our biggest elders, the professors that one, they may be qualified to be called masakin. Because what they are earning cannot sustain them for a year. Isn't it? Cannot sustain them for a year. So they fall amongst masakin. So miskin, who is a miskin in Islam, our scholars based on this thing I have mentioned say a miskin in Islam is someone who he has a means of earning his living, he is getting something, but he is not enough for him. Some say it cannot sustain him for a year. And if we know how it cannot sustain him for a year, then in Nigeria virtually you see the masakin are so many. Those that have what can sustain them for a year. Meaning you stay in your home and you can have enough for that particular year. May Allah assist us. So inshallah we'll stop there. We pray whatever I said which is correct and right, may Allah reward me and you. May Allah assist us to implement the best out of it. Whatever I said which is wrong, may Allah assist me and you to get the correct thing so that we abandon the wrong and take the right thing. May Allah continue to guide us. May Allah Ta'ala assist us. اللهم إنا وجهك إلينا وانصرنا وانتصر علينا واهدنا سبل الصلاة ونجنا من الظلمات إلى النور. اللهم ربنا أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. اللهم اجعلنا من عبادك الراشدين. اللهم ربنا عليك توكلنا وإليك عنبنا وإليك المصير. اللهم ربنا تقبل صيامنا وقيامنا وركوعنا وسجودنا. اللهم اجعل ركابنا من النار برحمتك يا رب العالمين. اللهم ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين ووحد صفوف المسلمين على الحق وأرنا الحق على محمد وآل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وآل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد وبارك على محمد وآل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وآل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.